seminar is pretty much on the music streaming seminar, so I hope you guys are in the right place. We have a packed room, which is wonderful. Okay. So my name is Gaurav. I am a VP with the LA Orange County Audio Society, and it's our privilege, really. Thank you.
Actually, just twist that in your direction.
Yeah, thanks. So it's our privilege to bring the seminar to you, and we have some notable personalities in the digital streaming business, and hope you guys enjoy it. So now, without further ado, I'll introduce Ron Goldberg. Hi, Ron. Ron is the founder and site director of High-Res Audio Central. It's the web's first portal dedicated to high-resolution audio news and linkage. He's a 25-year veteran of the consumer electronics media and lifelong audio enthusiast. Ron also founded the music first label dedicated to MIDI music. So periodic music in 1986. So periodic tracks were used extensively by Trent Reznor throughout the gold-selling soundtrack to Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers. Former national media spokesman for the Consumer Electronics Association, internationally syndicated columnist, and an early web pioneer. Ron was a co-founder of eTown.com, the web's first broad-scale site for consumer electronics content, education, and commerce. Since 2002, has been a strategic B2B and B2C consultant through numerous technology sectors, spanning entertainment, connected objects, and digital health. So, Ron, you have the podium and the stage.
Thank you all for coming out and for that wonderful intro. I don't usually get something like that. I'd like to introduce our extremely distinguished panel. I'm very proud to have these gentlemen with us today. Let's just move the mic, take my glasses off. We have with us today for our topic, music streaming today and tomorrow, we have Mr. Bob Stewart. Bob is the co-founder of Meridian Audio and the inventor of MQA, which stands for Master Quality Authenticated. It's a new technology that, among other things, promises the ability to deliver high-resolution audio in dramatically smaller file sizes without loss of quality. Bob is also the developer of Meridian Lossless Packing, a technology that is part of the Blu-ray specification and was at the heart of the DVD audio specification. We also have Mr. David Solomon, a keen musician and music lover to the core. David is the national sales director for Tidal, the first HD streaming service in the US. David was also a founding partner of T.H.E Audio, where his passion for high-quality audio streaming took shape. He's gone on to become an ambassador for computer music and is recognized as one of the visionaries in the field. We also have Mr. Owen Kwan, who's the president of Astell Kern, a subsidiary of iRiver and the acclaimed manufacturer of the Astell Kern audiophile quality digital audio players. Today he oversees the planning, development, launch, sales, and marketing of the company's product portfolio in North America. Prior to Astell Kern, Owen was with iRiver, and he's also the vice president for personal listening for the Los Angeles and Orange County Audio Society. And last but not least, Mr. Mark Feiner. He's one of the founders of the Digital Entertainment Group, a Los Angeles-based industry-funded nonprofit corporation that advocates and promotes the benefits associated with emerging entertainment concepts, including both physical and digital media. Currently serves as the senior director of T.H.E, where he helps drive the association's new technology initiatives, most recently 4K Ultra HD TV and high-resolution audio. So please welcome our very distinguished guests. Thank you all again for joining us. This is a topic that really has a tremendous amount of importance, not just to music and audio lovers, but to the entire economic sphere of the music industry and the audio industry. So you're really in for a treat hearing from these experts today. So I'd like to begin the questioning with a simple thought. We've all grown up with a sort of two-tier model for our music listening. We had a free tier, which was listening to the radio, and we had a paid tier, where if you liked what you heard on the radio, you went and you bought the record or the tape. Is streaming simply the same old wine in new bottles? Do we have pretty much a free tier with streaming? Obviously, it's not completely free. And if you like what you hear, you can buy it, whether it's a CD, those are declining, of course, but you can buy a download. So are we really just replicating the same music industry model that we've had all along with streaming? I'll start with you, David.
Somewhat. As far as the actual content goes, yes. As far as delivery, it's just becoming much better quality. It's becoming more easy to stream. And with technologies like Bob has developed with MQA, it's going to even be easier. So yeah, it is the same old, except you don't have, $40 million worth of CDs, and you don't have to wait for the song that you want, and you can now get it in full bid, and pretty soon it's going to even be higher than that. So it's really easy to connect the dots of the future when you just know what's happened in the past. We started off with XM and Sirius, I think it's 64 kilobits per second, a lot of content, but not very good. Then it went to $1.28, then $1.92. About when it was going to 320 is when the epiphany started hitting me. It probably hit Bob a lot earlier than this, but it was like, okay, well, it's gone this far. Where's it going to go from here? It's bound to go to 1644. That's when I really hopped on the streaming bandwagon and was just waiting for this to happen. And I would have been Tidal's first customer, or Deezer or Quobuzz for that matter, because this is actually what I've been waiting for my whole life. Starting off with AM radio and then kind of going up from there, I've seen these huge jumps in quality, and now I think this one is finally the one that's going to make more music possible for more people to hear in a high quality manner than ever before. We are in this really cool tipping point of history right now. So yes and no. It's very exciting. Lots of cool things are happening, and like I say, more music than you've ever had access to before in your life is happening right now.
Mark?
Well, I would only add to that, thank you, David, that just to level set it, from the music industry perspective, and what we do at D.H.E. is work with the major labels on a number of initiatives, including high-res audio most recently. The industry is facing many new business models and many new challenges in distribution. And to your original question, Ron, about is this similar to radio, I would think it's a little bit more focused on a similarity like Netflix or HBO or Amazon in video. It's an on-demand way of enjoying music without the same challenges and the same approach to collecting music via physical discs or downloads. And it's because of that, it's representing a new opportunity for all the music companies and artists and producers and engineers, but also some technical and business challenges. I know Bob will address a lot of that in terms of the technical side, but we're trying to get the music labels and their distribution partners at the music companies aligned on the business issues as well.
Thank you. Bob, what do you think? Are we really at radios and records only this generation?
Well, I was thinking about your original question, because the radio was about the way we discovered music, and then the only thing you could do once you discovered it was to buy it and own it. And I think the biggest problem the music industry faces at the moment is that it engages differently with every generation. I think it's that, sure. Right. Okay. Can you hear me more clearly?
No sound technicians in this room?
I am.
But that's okay. I do speak quietly anyway. So what I was saying was, the curious thing about the present time is that every generation engages in a different way with the music industry, and streaming is, I think, the new discovery. That's what it's best at, and that's all about user interface. Once you can discover the music, then I think it's a generational question almost whether you want to own it or not. But the fact that it's available, and the fact that it can be available now in full studio quality, means that really it's probably a game changer.
Well, when you have a company where owning the music is very critical. Do you agree?
I mostly agree, because instantaneous and then easy access to the sound or the media is the key, and that will change the shape of the market. I agree with Bob's point that we are dealing with a different generation, and those generations are treating the media a different way, as if we were used to listening and appreciating all the arts and performance of the artist. Rather, nowadays, younger generations are more into just using it as a background of their lifestyle. So as the lifestyle changes, we'd like to offer some easy access to those contents. And in that way, I somewhat agree with your point that the streaming music will become something similar to the radios or the TV that we used to have an access on.
Do you feel that, excuse me, do you feel that streaming will become the predominant way that consumers consume music?
I think so, because we are dealing with the younger demographics who used to get their information and writing their papers off of the internet. They do Googles and Wikipedia for everything that they don't know about. They are looking for instant reactions of some feedbacks to their lifestyle, and their attention span is a lot shorter than what most of the older generation has. So in that way, streaming music and then instant access to those music is quite critical to continue getting the better music to the general public.
Bob, do you agree? Streaming as the dominant method of music consumption?
I can see that. I can see that for many generations, because we're able to give them the quality. The thing we're trying to solve with MQA is more than that. We're trying to bring the really high quality, but also some level of metadata. Because the problem with radio, the problem with simple exploring on streaming is that you can come across a song, but you don't get to engage with the music in the same way as we did before. If you put an album on Owen's Play, or if you have a vinyl album, people always played it from the beginning to the end, and usually ended up liking a different song to the one they bought it for, and learning more about the artist. And I think this is the other part of the component that has to be fixed. We can stream the sound, we can get really high quality, but we have to have a way where people can really learn about the music and the artist and engage with it, and they want to own it. Maybe they own it through a subscription, or they own it through any other method. But I think it's critical.
I would add to what Bob said. I would point out, though, that we tend to oversimplify these transitions in our industry from one extreme to another, either or, nothing in between. The reality of the situation is it's a very segmented market. There's a lot of different ways consumers, to Bob's words, are engaging with music. And in fact, the reality of the numbers are, we just saw a few weeks ago the International Union's report on transactional and subscription music. And just this year, for the first time, subscription services barely exceeded the download market in terms of total revenue being generated by the various music companies and their artists and their overall businesses. So it's important that when we move from one platform to another, we enhance all the aspects of the platform's capabilities. Yeah. And I think we've talked about sound quality. We always talk about sound quality. But to your point a moment ago, the whole process of using metadata to enhance how the music is accessed, how we have discovery and search, what kind of additional value do we provide the enthusiasts who want the best quality music, that's going to help determine how quick this transition goes.
Indeed.
Yeah, I would agree with all of these guys. They're all good points. It's very much of a hybrid world at this point. I'm a hybrid guy myself. I've got terabytes of music on my system that you can't even get streaming. And I think it's going to be like that for really quite some time. But a really good friend of mine, we were doing a panel similar to this, I guess it was last year, the year before at Rocky Mountain Audio Fest. Chris Conacher from Computer Audiophile, and I was telling people the reason that I'm a hybrid guy is because I've got Beatles. I've got things like Beatles that you simply can't get, you can't stream. And Chris said something really interesting to the whole crowd, which was, David, if the Beatles aren't streaming in 10 years, the next generation won't know who the Beatles are. And it just hit me like, oh my God, because you guys are right. The new generation, they're doing things differently than we're doing. John Atkinson was also on the same panel, and I was really advocating the whole streaming thing. And this was even before it was full bid. I just knew it was coming. And John Atkinson said, in his nice, sweet British voice, "But David, people like to own their own physical media." And I said, John, respectfully, only old people. It's like only people that actually have already bought like thousands and thousands of CDs. Those are the guys that are going, oh, well, you need to buy CDs, and others are going, oh, you need to stream. And I'm so with you, Owen. It's a hybrid world. Who cares? Or it was you. Who cares what you listen to as long as you're listening? So some of it's going to be streaming, some of it's going to be off of your hard drives, and nothing wrong with either. I think they can both live successfully, and there's a lot of really, really cool products out there right now that allow you to seamlessly do one or the other. It's not all about just the computer anymore. It's about there are components out there that are actually made to do this hybrid type of streaming, which to me is really, really exciting in the transition that you were talking about. So right now, I think downloading, gosh, I'm all about it, because there's so much stuff that you just can't get at, particularly the high resolution stuff right this very second. But at some point, be ready. Like I say, we're in this really cool transition in history right now, and be ready for it any time to tilt, and you'll start seeing streaming at 2496 and 24192, and when it changes, it'll just be different at that point, but it's going to happen any time now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think you would have an excellent perspective on this next question. What do you think the most important drivers are going to be for streaming music? Is it going to be sound quality, the size of the selection, the ease of use, the cost?
Culturally, I hope it's sound quality. It's starting to happen now. The only reason we were ever with compressed music to begin with is because it was just a matter of bandwidth or disk size. We don't have those limitations now, so it's kind of wide open.
No, I would agree. I think, Ron, we talked about this, and Bob and myself and others have lived through this. Whether it's through processing speed or storage or pipe, there's been tremendous improvements in the ecosystem in the last 5 to 10 years. So those aren't the limiting factors. But I think what people are looking for, to your question, Ron, what is the key factor or factors? I think there's an interesting parallel that we don't talk enough about. And that is, we're in a time right now where we see streaming becoming the dominant form of digital delivery, and yet we're seeing a resurgence in vinyl sales. With all due respect to everyone in this room, our small little group of audiophiles, we're not driving that. It's coming from younger people. And there's something that's linking the interest in vinyl to the interest in digital. And the need of bringing those together as identifying factors, I think, is the key point. To me, it's about the experience. We've got a whole new younger generation of music enthusiasts who are about seeking a better experience. Whether it's what they seem to want to get from vinyl, the emotional connection to the music, and there's a sound quality factor, a collectability factor, a liner note factor, a lifestyle factor. That's the antithesis of the first generation digital downloads from 15 years ago. There's similar characteristics that we need in the next generation digital delivery for streaming as well. It's the same customers. They're going to use it in mobile, they're going to use it at home. We have to find a way to communicate the value and the benefits of both.
Bob, would you say that that sound quality tops the list of value?
Well, it certainly does for us. And the point about the MQA project was to solve this problem, was to get actually the original sound from the studio, because one of the problems of the digital era was that it hasn't ever been captured properly before, at any level. So to go back and be able to solve that problem, get this emotional connection to the music that Mark's talking about, that's really critical. And then be able to deliver it in a way that people can enjoy it, so that we can get round this whole problem of having 57 different ways to listen to something, when in fact you only want one product, which is the single stream that can do everything. That to me, this fragmentation is part of the difficulty that we've been seeing. And the way the music industry drives the music to the consumers is completely different to the way the high-tech companies do. You look at YouTube, whereas more music listening is done than ever. The sound quality is not very good. The discovery is interesting. It's free. That's one of the issues. But there's no reason for the sound quality not to be good. The sound quality can be good everywhere, and so that is resolved. The question then is, how do you bring people the information they need so that they feel connected to the music and to the artist, that it's cool. There's a story behind every song. How do you learn that? Well, you can learn that from the metadata. That's the point.
Owen, you would have an interesting perspective on this, as you are dealing with hardware players, so therefore there's another level of user experience. What do you think is going to drive the success of these new delivery methods? Do we need to work on the user experiences?
So I think these gentlemen already explained about the service provider perspective or technology provider perspective. From my end, I usually deal with the customers who wants to get their music conveniently. So from the pure consumer perspective, I think the most important thing is cost, and the second most important thing is easy access, and the last most important thing has been the sound quality. But now market is slowly catching it up, as we can see it from what happened in past couple of decades. In early 90s, there were big problem with record labels and the music industry artists, that they were suffered by the piracy of the music downloads because people want freebies, and that was directly related with the cost information. And then later on, they wanted to have an instant access to the music, no matter what the quality is. So at that time, internet radio was only available with a 32, 64 kbps quality, which is about the same level of FM radio, but which was convenient enough so that people can access to mostly free and then easy access to the music. And finally, people start thinking that, wow, we can have a lot better sound because we have the technology is at our disposal. That's where Tidal and all the other high resolution CD plus quality of the music start to become appreciated, and then MQA technology from the Meridian start to being highlighted, since now we can complete the whole picture with the quality of the sound.
David and Mark brought up a good point earlier about us not needing lossy audio anymore. We all remember the days of dial-up. We all remember the excitement of getting that first Napster download. Well, most of us remember. But we're in 2015, and lossy music is still quite predominant on all the major services, including all the major streaming services. Do you believe that will continue to be the case, or are we just going to eventually seamlessly migrate due to bigger storage, bigger pipes, into full and high resolution sound?
I strongly do, and that is the way it is going to be happen as fast as within the next 5 years. Most of the lossy files will just become obsolete, or will not be getting the full attention as much as what they've been getting, because processing power and the pipeline and the storage will be unlimited in very short time. So we already have a lot better processing power in our disposal. Pipeline, which could be your broadband services from ISPs, or network carriers are already ready with the technology. They don't know how to, they are just yet to find how to charge people about the data charges and then all the traffics that they are dealing with, but technology is already there. And storage, it is getting cheaper every month in half the price. So with that environment, TV industry already proved themselves that from SD to HD and now 4K, and even the more resolution is going to be available soon, and people will use the better qualities because simply they can do it.
Bob, you have a different solution. Rather than worrying about the size of the roadway, you're interested in changing the size of the car.
That's right. I was just thinking about that because there's so many threads to this. Sorry, but in the days of vinyl, there was one record. The record industry produced one thing, and then people got to choose how to play it back, right? So you had to choose how to play it back. These days, with digital technology, what we've been trying to do with MQA is solve a very fundamental thing. We've presented it in a very friendly way because it's backward compatible. But the fundamental problem is how do you capture everything the human can hear in an efficient space? And because we've been sort of out of control, thinking that, well, if we make digital go faster, it'll somehow go better, from 44 to 96 to 192 to 384. The problem is it keeps getting better when you go to 768. And so that's clearly wrong. There's something fundamentally wrong. So we don't believe that you need to have all this data. There's a certain amount of data which has to be exquisitely preserved, because that is the sound that we can hear. As the humans, we can hear this. And one of the difficulties with linear PCM is it doesn't preserve one part of it very well in the amplitude domain, but in frequency, high sample rates are actually, once you get to 96 and above, pointless if it's done right. And if it's done wrongly, the data keeps exploding. You need bigger and bigger and bigger pipes. So looking for an efficient way of coding is what we were about. Let's face it, MP3 uses a smaller data rate than there is between my ear and my brain, and I think that we ought to worry about that. We ought to worry about that. So there's a certain amount of data that is needed to capture all the nuances and the things that the human can understand. But everybody knows what analog is. Analog is effectively 300 kilohertz sampling, 18-bit. That's it. But we can fit all the music into a smaller space than that without losing any of it. Partly because of the microphones, partly because of the speakers. So yes, we're changing the size of the car, but we're making it strong enough and big enough to hold everything. And that's the key thing. And if we can do that, then the music industry can have one deliverable again. People can choose to play it back how they like, but they don't have to worry about buying the wrong thing.
Mark, do you think that there will be a market for the wrong thing? If we can agree that lossy music is the wrong thing?
Well, it's a big agreement, but I think there's lots of markets for lots of things. And I think the one thing that I always step back and look at that we have now that we didn't have 10, 15 years ago in the physical age, as Bob referenced, we had the benefit of format standardization.
Yeah.
We had vinyl and even preceding the LP, all the ways through the CD era and other physical formats for video, the ability to ensure that a disc could play in a player, regardless of brand, regardless of location, etc. Digital technology is so ubiquitous, it's so widespread, that the days of going back and trying to find one size fits all, I think are largely gone. And I think what people are looking for today, as witnessed by some of the big success stories in our industry, is the right solution, the solution they want for their needs. And this is what we're charged with. Bob has come up with a great technology as a solution for those who want high-res quality in an environment and a delivery mechanism in streaming that they can enjoy the way they consume music. There's other people out there who consume music in different ways, and to bring it, the point home, the CEA, the Consumer Electronics Association, just did a study. They do studies all the time, as Ron knows. 3,000 different music consumers. And to show how big this one-size-fits-all issue is, of these 3,000 consumers, you had a 5 or 6% group who didn't care about music at all. They would not care if all the music disappeared off the earth on day one. It's not an important part of their life. There's another 4 to 5% who's everyone in this room. They're audiophiles, they're tech-oriented. Everything has to be the best experience. But the most interesting factor was the two largest groups. One group was the convenient-oriented MP3 generation that David and Bob were referring to, which launched digital. And to them, sound quality, regardless of what the way of delivery is, isn't as important as convenience, and the existing status quo is fine. But the real opportunity was the 30 to 35% of people who are so passionate about music, and they're not audiophiles. They want that connection. They want it to fit their lifestyle needs through streaming. This is our opportunity to displace lossy with lossless or high-res delivery through technologies like Bob. If we do what's right to bring the industry together and communicate this, and most importantly, give the consumer a chance to experience it, we have a chance to be successful in a big way with this.
The thing is that the customers never asked for lower sound quality. They just asked for convenience, and that's the point. For a while, it was necessary to lower quality to give the convenience, but we don't have to make that trade, and that's the trade we want to stop happening.
Right.
Yeah.
And to your point, they won't give up convenience to get sound quality. We have to give them the opportunity to get both.
That's right. Well, the people in this room, audiophiles, you care about music. In the CD era, we all survived because there was a huge market for people who thought the most important thing about a CD was you didn't have to rewind it at the end. You know, so this is the point. We have to have the content out there in a good way. It's all right. You can smile now.
God, I agree.
David, I guess it's a safe bet that sound quality is really a major driver in what you guys are doing at Tidal.
Not at all. I mean, it is. It is to this crowd. It is to the audio industry. But I was really glad to see when Jay-Z and those guys took this thing over. They introduced a 999 scale. So at least you could start off with something. Because just like you said, it's like my wife. I swear she could care less. I got hired at Tidal, and the first thing that I did, she was listening to one of her tunes, and I said, "Hey, honey, come and listen to this, and this is the same thing you were just listening to, only it's a whole lot better." And she sat down and she listened, and after it was over, she looked at me very respectfully and said, "Wow, well that sounds a lot better, doesn't it?" And I said, I was really proud. I was going, it sounds a lot better. So what do you think? She goes, I don't care. She's just not like that look, but she gets the benefit of having the high resolution by default, right? Some people care, some people don't. The main thing that I care about is that people listen to music and hopefully make that next step. Because every time they make the next step, if it is something that they truly care about, and if it is something that's part of their life, then higher quality is important, which kind of brings the point to these new programs that are coming out there. If you look at a product like a Sulus or a Rune, have any of you guys played with the new Rune product since they pulled it out? I'd just like to know who I'm talking to. So they just launched this thing a few weeks ago, but it's very similar to the Sulus system that Meridian's had out for years. And on first play with this thing, I started going deeper and deeper and deeper into music. The search engines on these things are incredible. You can go down through so many rabbit holes. So what I really think is going to happen is that these search engines and the convenience, as these guys are talking about, are going to get so good that you just naturally dive deeper and deeper into music. Like, oh, well, let's listen to James Brown. Oh, man, that's a great saxophone player. Who is that? Oh, well, that's Maceo Parker. And you hit Maceo Parker, and you see everything that he's ever been on and anything that he's ever played on. So it just makes music discovery so much easier. So my hope is that, one, there won't be any need for MP3 anymore because the technology just surpasses it. And two, that because people can dig into their music collection so much deeper, so much faster, that my hope is that music will just start becoming more and more important to people because there's so many more places and so many more ways that you could listen to it on. So that's
Absolutely.
So yes, I think it's important, and not really, not to some people. To me, super, super important. To my wife, not so much. You know.
Well, it's an excellent point, and you've all touched on a couple of points that I'd like to expound on here a little bit. Mark, so what do you think we need to do to make this experience better for the user? We've talked about delivery. David just touched on discovery. We've talked about sound quality, of course. Do you feel we're in the right place yet? Are we at the beginning of how these interfaces will evolve and the delivery will evolve?
No, I think we still have quite a way to go in both the practical and in the marketing sense. Bob referenced earlier the importance of metadata. I think everyone in this room knows what metadata is, the value it provides. But I just came from a music industry conference, which seems like a repeat of the other conferences I've gone to. And unlike the motion picture industry, there's still not a standard for metadata interoperability from all the music companies. They've been talking about this for 10 years.
Oh, my goodness.
And a lot of it is because it's the chicken and egg scenario. They haven't gone around to doing this because they haven't recognized how critical it is to get that metadata standard in place to drive more convenience, more value enhancement, et cetera, to the music experience. I think the other thing that's important is how do we address what David referenced, that his wife was enamored with, a new tier of offering that bring people into the streaming market. And we look at it at first glance as a pricing or a cost issue. But to me, it's not cost so much as value. We have to bring more value to this experience and get consumers to recognize that that value is something worth paying for. And if we do that, we can be much more successful in driving that transition faster.
Okay, so discovery, the experience of the metadata, certainly, Bob. Beyond sound quality and transport, is there something specific you can think of that would really just be a game changer in terms of the user experience for streaming?
I think it's what David was referring to earlier. It's one of the problems we were trying to set out to solve with Solus was if you had all the music in the world, how would you know what to play next?
Right.
And the streaming service effectively gives you that. It gives you that. And so the question is, I think that the victory goes to the company that solves that problem the best. And sound quality needn't suffer because it's an orthogonal question.
Owen, yourself, again, you have a lot of experience with user interfaces, particularly for a portable device when people are on the go, or where you're not in front of the computer and you have the luxury of time. What do you feel we need to be doing in order to make that user experience more exciting and more convenient?
I agree with the overall playlist or personalization that really works to the individual taste of the listeners. But at the same time, from the hardware perspective, we'd like to maintain the largest bandwidth or not to create any bottleneck in between for delivering the whatever the dynamic range and ambience that has been captured. So from hardware side, that is our mission, and then the thing that we're trying to push the limit. Yet from the service perspective, more knowledgeable or more taste understanding type of software or some logic, and even some streaming of any certain full album service would be a great solution then, yes.
Thank you. So I'd just like to ask the audience a question for a moment to lead us into our next question for our panelists. How many people here listen to streaming services? Wow. How many people here pay for streaming services?
Wow. Number.
Gentlemen, your audience.
How many are on Tidal? My people.
So you had touched upon this earlier, and maybe Mr. Atkinson was right, and maybe it's just old guys like us that want to own something, but I think you can turn around and take a look in the next room. I don't know how many young people we have buying records in there, but in my neighborhood where I live in Los Angeles, there's nothing but kids trawling through Amoeba Records and looking for whatever. There's definitely a clear there's a clear desire for ownership. Do you think that that's going to remain a permanent aspect? When you can stream anything you want and have anything you want on demand, is there any reason to own your media?
Yeah, there is. Are you kidding? It's like there's nothing like the smell of an album. Once you, I mean, really, you open these things up, and oh my God, it's just such a great experience. I love the ritual. I've been doing albums for many, many years, and not so much anymore, but I certainly understand the lure and the romance of the whole thing. Gosh, I hope it never ends. I hope vinyl's here for a long time. They're selling more vinyl now than they have in years. From a percentage standpoint, it's not really that big, but it's ultra cool, and it's high quality. It gets people to that next level. I hope it doesn't end. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. And some people want to make this a either or. I see some comments that just blow me away on Tidal in particular, and somebody else starts saying how good something sounded on Tidal, and some guy's going to come up there and go, yeah, but it doesn't sound as good as my vinyl. It's like, okay, cool. Listen to your vinyl when you can listen to it. If you really dig vinyl, listen to it when you're in the middle of your Magnaplaners or whatever you're doing, but you can't listen to vinyl on the plane or in your car or in most places that you go these days. That's the reality. People are listening to music more than they. So if you're in front of your house and you feel like cleaning a record and you feel like smelling of it and you want to do that whole ritual, God bless you. I'm all for it. I think it just makes you more of a music lover. But unless you can carry it around with you, it's typically only going to be in one spot at one time that you happen to be in that one spot. So I think they both live harmoniously.
Mark, it's 5 to 7 years from now, and all our streaming is high resolution, and I can get it virtually anything I want. The labels have come to their deals with the artists, and it's all there for me on demand. Does anyone still want to own music?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's like any other engaging process that consumers love. And we have the same issues through our organization with the studios we work with. Do people care enough about movies to collect them? Is there still an opportunity out there to make electronic sell-through and a transaction of purchasing something valuable? I think all of these various platforms are evolving constantly, and I think there's going to be a reshuffling of the deck, if you will, in terms of the audience and as the market changes and the demographics evolve. But there is going to be a group, as you referenced a moment ago about vinyl, that will always want to own something that is important to them. To give you a cut of this and a reality check for today, if you remember a few months ago the hoopla that was created with Taylor Swift, who took her music off of what is arguably the most popular streaming service in volume, Spotify, because she fundamentally disagreed with the way that model works, she still emerged as the biggest selling artist, the most awarded artist in terms of commercial success this past year. And the reason why is she is connected to her audience, to her listeners, to her fans, and she feels that's a valuable experience that her audience will pay for. And there are many other creative people in the industry, both in music and in film, who believe the same thing. It's up to us as an industry to create those opportunities. And I think over time, it will reshuffle, but you'll still see people who want to hold and maintain and cherish what matters most to them.
Bob, do you agree? Ownership of your music, or does it matter?
No, I completely agree. I mean, I think that impulse is there, the impulse to own things. That we see it in books. Some people like e-books and some they like paper books, and they like both. Depends on the book. And I think it's absolutely the case for music. Absolutely, it is. We see, for example, in Cambridge, students who are notorious for not buying anything really will use streaming services to discover music, but then go out and buy the CD because they want to own it. They found the one. They actually did a sophisticated search and found the actual CD they wanted. So that's quite interesting. And yes, I think people do want to own it. There's always that feeling of needing to own it, needing to be sure it's always going to be there. The internet may go down. We could have a power cut. I just want to play my disc. So that sort of thing. Nevertheless, when you look at the statistics worldwide, things like Mark said earlier, things don't switch that quickly. In Japan, you're looking at a market, 65% of the market is physical media. In Europe, much more than here. 47%, 65% in Germany is physical media. So people are still buying music. The weird thing is that there are no record stores. And
that's true.
That is true. That's to me, that's the big tragedy of what's happened there, is that some generations were simply taken out of the music market. How many times did you go to a record store and come out with a disc you didn't intend to buy? Right? I did every time.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's how do you discover it?
Well, discovery is the critical factor, and to your point earlier on about is streaming the new radio, not in the business sense, but in the sense of discovery, absolutely. But that allows consumers to feel confident and, even more importantly, passionate about what they end up buying.
Yeah.
If they discover something through streaming that they never knew about before.
Yeah.
It's amusing how much time, if you think about it, we spent when we were youngsters flipping through the LPs, and again, to walk away maybe with your $1.99 single record that you spent half an afternoon looking for. But now you see the same thing happening on a computer. There's a huge iTunes list, and people just tune out and don't have the same kind of experience. Owen, obviously, music ownership is important to the products that you sell. So do you see high-res downloads as being a natural successor to the LP, or will they always coexist?
I mostly agree with the other gentleman's point. One thing that I'd like to point out is that having personal media, that you know where you have it, so you can have it for until you give it away. But having an easy access or simple, quick access to your personal owned media, from the remote location, is what younger demographic is going to look for, and then a lot of people would appreciate. So that is another factor. And then if there is zero gray area that you cannot get onto the network or you cannot get onto a web, then until then, people will continue purchase and then store their personal library in their hard disk drive or on their bookshelves. So I think it is gradually going to shape differently as the easy access to the media changes.
I'd like to move for a moment from technology to business models. There have been a lot of outcries, some fair, some not so fair. You see a lot of internet memes about whether artists will be able to survive in the age of streaming. What do you see as having the best chances for long-term viability in the streaming market? You have an advertising model like Pandora. You have a subscription model like Tidal or Spotify. David?
We see long-term is the freemium. We don't really think it's that sustainable.
Freemium.
Right. So we think at some point, it's not very hard to see that we're sort of in the Wild West here. This thing is really, in the big scheme of things, streaming's 5 minutes old. And I don't think by any means that the business model has settled, or probably will for a little while. On our side, I really don't see it being freemium forever, but you never know. it would be pure speculation at this point. I know from just a solid business plan, a business plan like ours or a company similar to ours is charging as much as we're charging, it's actually a sustainable business plan. You could actually see this going no problem in 5 years, no problem in 10 years. The numbers all line up. And just to kind of go back a little bit to one of the things that I think Bob and Mark were hinting at, and the reason that we're still in sort of the infancy or the Wild West is because the world hasn't hit a stable point yet, even as far as market share is concerned. There are benchmarks that show what market share is going to look like, and I believe it 100%. The Scandinavian countries have been streaming for longer than anyone, and right now, I just got back from Oslo. The Scandinavian countries are streaming at about 92%, which just completely blows me away. That means almost everybody is streaming there. America, not so much. All in, with at least in the last numbers I've got, you may have some updated numbers, but the last numbers I got, which were a few months ago, and things are changing quite quickly, we're at about 30%, 32%. So if you look at what's going to happen within the next 2 to 5 years, we'll end up being, that's a huge increase, 30, 35, 40, 45% increase in market share. So at some point, like, everybody's going to be doing it. And closer to that tipping point, I think we'll start seeing business models that make more sense, because I don't think anybody wants the artists working for free, but it is a changing world, and I'm not quite sure that we'll ever go back to us gestures. And I can say this, I'm a musician as well, and I've got tons of friends that are musicians. I don't think, and basically we're all jesters. Some of us are better than, or some are better than others, but I don't think that world is going to pay people gabillions of dollars as it once was. It's just a changing thing, just like a lot of our businesses has changed, and we weren't making quite the same dollars. The buggy whip guy, around the turn of the century, those were some damn good buggy whips, but it was just a changing model. It's a changing model now.
Mark, does freemium have a chance?
Oh, of course. And again, as David pointed out, it's going to evolve. We're very early in this. I happen to agree with you, and I think most of the major music companies would concur that the freemium model is not going to be the focus. There's no reason for it. If you look at what it was supposed to do, it was actually designed to provide trial, exposure to a new concept with music and the benefits of the artist whose recordings are just being put out there for the first time. But if we look at what's happened in the movie business, the most popular services, Netflix, Amazon, HBO, and all the apps from the broadcast networks, there's trials, limited trials, but it's not given away for free. In fact, it's actually following your model. They're scaling it now. There's HD quality video services. There's 4K quality video services. You pay different fees for that, but you still get value depending on what your needs are. So I think streaming is going to be a very healthy opportunity. I think the music companies need to continue to evolve to come up with ways with their partners to deliver more value to the customer.
Bob, in the case of MQA, there's now possibly a new incentive for streaming services, as they don't require the same kind of bandwidth, and I would assume a smaller cost of infrastructure. So, do you see the subscription model becoming predominant, staying predominant? I'm thinking off the top of my head, what happens when Apple says, okay, our streaming service is on your phone, bingo, you don't have to do anything, it's been rolled into the price of your phone. Or Amazon sees that and says, oh, you're an Amazon Prime member, great, now you have access to all this music. It's daunting. Do you believe that subscription will really be the way that streaming stays alive, or trial, the way that Mark is describing with freemium?
I think we'll have to study the statistics, because my suspicion is if you have a service with 17 million songs, people actually only listen to the same few hundred again and again.
Yeah.
Well, that's, yes, you've discovered it, but then you kind of own it in that way. And in this way, it's different from movies. Maybe I'm not like you, but I've never watched a movie 500 times.
Yeah.
But I know for sure that there are songs that I've listened to 500 times, pieces of music. So
Kids, though, if you have children,
true.
movies are watching.
But you know what? You should stop them doing that.
You are absolutely correct.
Wrong.
Now, if I can only get to that son of mine,
That's right.
25 now, it's a little too late.
That's right. Exactly. So streaming is going to be important. The cool thing about the technology is it enables it. It enables it, and it enables it not to throw away quality, and to have something which is streamlined. But here's another perspective. 150 years ago, there wasn't recorded music. Artists were paid in a different way. There was a peak period, but all the music industry actually has to do is get $1 a year from all the people on the planet, and they will have multiplied the size of the business by 100. So there's a tremendous opportunity actually to resolve.
Can MQA do that?
No, we can't solve that problem.
That's a great point. That's what I was trying to get to a little while ago when I was going, this we can turn into 92% like that, Germany. And the only reason Japan is so high in software sales is they forbid streaming. You cannot stream in Japan. But as soon as they, set my people free, it's going to be somewhat different.
Oh, they have great things like retail price maintenance.
Yeah, it's like there's going to be great speeches and stuff when streaming comes to Japan.
I've been told we're approaching our close. I'd like to, we have a few minutes for questions from the audience. Sir?
I'm doing great.
I just want to say this. I've done any research, we've just researched the streaming media, specifically on what would make people pay more for it. So I want to speak to all of you after the thing. Sure. And it's more than you think.
Well, that's good news.
More than you think.
Well, we've made money. Next question, please. Steve?
Well, we're at the beginning, as they said, and the T.H.E's done an awesome job at getting record labels together and equipment manufacturers like Astell Kern. A lot of us here, we're kind of the choir. We know about it, we're bought and sold. Well, in a broad sense, I regularly will just go out and embarrass my wife and ask people to know about this or that, whatever. When are we going to offer a broad educational system to bring people in so that they're aware, not just writers, journalists, and our choir, but in a general sense, as say the T.H.E did with DVD, which was the quickest physical format to be accepted by consumers. Is there a timeline where once we have all the chess pieces in place, do you know when you're actually going to, in a broad sense, educate and really get the mass consumers to their accounts?
Yeah, as Bob just referenced to me, it is the herding cat situation. These cats are tough cats sometimes to pull in because despite what our priorities are, they may sometimes differ in terms of their other everyday activities. But I will say this, I was amazed a month ago to open up an issue, a physical issue, as well as online, of Consumer Reports, which reaches 8 million people in a broad sense, as you described, Steve, every month. And they devoted 3 pages about high-res audio and various services and devices, the opportunity for streaming, and they even verified they could hear this with the right equipment on the right music in the right circumstances.
Well done.
If that can be done, there is an opportunity to do this. I can't guarantee when. It takes time, but some people are listening.
Sir?
You had mentioned Taylor Swift a little bit earlier, and I'm wondering if you actually release Taylor Swift and high-resolution audio, do you think that these kids with their iPods and all their Beats headphones, do you think that they would actually appreciate that?
I can only tell you if Taylor Swift went on a service site like many artists have done, like Tom Petty recently did on HD tracks, and talked about how important her music is to be heard in the best possible way, the closest way that is recorded, I guarantee you the awareness factor of how good her music sounds would shoot up proportionally very, very quickly.
I was wondering if she has a very high emotional
Emotional bit rate. That's a great one.
So we need to get the artist more engaged, and the Recording Academy, the people we're working with across the producers and engineers wings are fully aware of that. They are the closest people to the artist. It isn't the labels, it isn't even their managers, it's their partners in the creation of music. They have to help deliver that message to their fans.
We got Theo Young, how much more can he bring? Is he trying, is the music industry trying to establish a beachhead? Is anybody else joining in?
There's numerous artists who are dipping their toes in this. Lady Gaga's recent recording from last year with Tony Bennett was done in high res. She actually talked about this from one of her stops in her European tour. But again, I would be misleading you if I said this is going to happen overnight. People have to understand that the fan who wants that music the most, the fans who are going to see the Rolling Stones now, not because they're selling their records, that's not how the Rolling Stones are engaging much anymore. It's the live performance, it's the merchandising, it's the relationship with their fans. They have to talk about how important sound quality is to experience their music. And I'm confident this will continue to expand.
And there is a growing movement of different artists.
Yep.
You'll see it. Yeah.
I'm afraid we've run out of time. I want to thank all of our panelists for lending us their expertise today.